Yeah, we didn't have that many males in the family. We had a majority of females. Therefore, just interest wasn't that great. So, and I needed to get out of town anyway. I was bored in Savannah, so I joined the military, and I'm pretty much the only family member to get in.
We became very close friends, and he was a person who trained me. When I came to Savannah, I realized that that was the person I wanted to be with forever. So Bill came over here, and we got married at a little tiny chapel over in South Carolina. And
women were first allowed in combat aviation roles in 1993, and that was right when I was going through Warrant Officer Candidate School. They allowed the first woman through. My experience working with mostly men has been very positive. This is my first unit, my first assignment here in Savannah as an attack helicopter pilot, and I'm the only female in my company. I'm one of two in the entire battalion, and I think that once the male counterparts realize that you're competent and you can do your job, that they accept you. I've been accepted, and they've done a lot to mentor me.
This is a very versatile weapon. They use this in aircraft. It's an 8mm configuration, but the Germans used it on tanks. They used it on aircraft. People you meet, people you work with, places you go, education. I imagine, with the exception of discipline, which none of us took to, it was a very positive thing. The military was excellent, short-time career.
I mean, I think being a pilot in the Coast Guard has been great because I've been to places I probably would have never been to. I mean, you know, I've been to Cuba. I lived in Puerto Rico for 3 years, did all the Caribbean, you know, in the helicopter. Positive things, of course, saving someone's life is the most positive thing I think anyone can do. And
I've wanted to fly ever since I can remember, ever since I was a little kid. And the Apache, as far as being an attack aircraft, really interested me because it's a challenge. It's more difficult, I would say, to fly. There's more that you have to do.
And it was about 10:47 at night, and I got a phone call. And when the commander spoke, as soon as he said my name, I said, "Something bad, isn't it?" Bill was the avionic mechanic on a test flight, and there were 2 pilots flying, and the pilots had brought their wives on board. And the helicopter crashed while it was getting ready to land. The wives did not survive the crash.
I think it's a really good thing to create an awareness about women being able to fly in combat roles. There are a lot of people who don't even realize that we're able to do this now. So when I, not necessarily do interviews, but when people see me and I do static displays with the aircraft, there's a lot of people who show surprise that we're doing this because they're not even aware that we're able to. I'm sure there are some people out there.
Right,
even though they're politically
correct
and they won't say it, I'm sure that underneath their breath
that.
they probably have their own ideas about whether or not we really belong here.
Suppose you're in a situation where you've got to be quiet. You ever been around a female when a loud noise, you know, an explosion, whatever, and they scream and they can't, you know what I'm saying? And how you gonna keep silence with something like that? And you know.
There's a lot of redundancy built into systems. We have 2 engines, we have 2 hydraulic systems, you know, we have backup electrical systems. So there's always a backup to the system that's there, just as there is in commercial aircraft. The other thing we have the ability to do, which an aircraft loses its engine, it's going to have to glide down. We can do sort of the same thing. We have a maneuver called an auto rotation. So if we lost both our engines, the rotor head would still turn, and we'd be able to get it on the duck.
Okay, that helicopter, you lose any blade, any portion of a blade, wherever you are, it's going to come straight down. So you have no way out. You can't parachute out. You know what I mean? There's just no. There aren't any options other than go down.
In the course of the crash, I was in the back with the sitting between the 2 pilots' wives. They were just forward of me and to the left and to the right, and they passed away on impact.
When I first went to the hospital, I asked to see him while he was not conscious because I didn't know what kind of shape he was going to be in. And he had IVs and oxygen tubes and monitoring equipment just everywhere because he was in the intensive care unit. He looked like a grape. He had been smashed by a helicopter, and he showed every bit of that.
When you join the military, a lot of benefits come with that. Similar to a lot of corporations, you get full medical and dental coverage.
That same day, or it may have been the following day, the Army was calling saying, package him up and send him home. He was not stable. He had just come out of surgery. He was due for another surgery on his leg. And I was angry that the Army, it was a matter of dollars and cents. They were having to pay the University of Miami a lot of money to keep him there, so they just wanted to bundle him up and come bring him to Fort Stewart, where he would not have received the level of care or the continuity of care that he was getting down there. I got very angry about that.
I think what was a GI's opinion of G.I. Jane? You know, and I said it's a joke. It's just a Hollywood fantasy, because there are no female SEALs and never will be.
I was transferred back to Savannah from Miami. I was brought before what's called a collateral investigation board. I was beginning to find out that they were planning to charge me, you know, with various things. I never really got it straight as to, you know, charges and specifications, but there were about 9 charges, to include involuntary manslaughter, negligent homicide, misappropriation, and then destruction of the aircraft, to which they had to decide whether I was going to chip in for the $6.6 million that the government lost. And I felt betrayed by the Army, because, you know, I've served them for 15 years. I've done everything that they've asked me to do, even though I didn't always agree with it. And here they are, they're charging me with the same things as the pilots.
If there was a war and we became part of the Navy, that they would never pull the women off of combat positions regardless. So we're a very small organization, and by pulling the women out of these positions, you're losing key people. We have no one to replace them with. So they've always stood fast about that and said, hey, listen, they're there, deal with it.
To make a movie about a female SEAL was probably an insult to most SEALs. It was to me, and I don't even do anything like that.
Elements of truth in that, being a female in the military, that you do have to kind of prove yourself to the rest of the guys. Well, of course, I've been told women are better pilots. Flying is not something where your brute strength's required at all. It's mostly finesse. Especially this aircraft, it's a sports car. You think about it and it does it. So a lighter touch is better. I've also been told that physically, in the combat jets, that women can handle G-forces better than men because of our anatomy, being shorter for the blood to travel, that kind of stuff, to your brain. And so maybe we actually would be better pilots, better suited to be pilots than men.
Yeah, knit one, pearl two, and have babies, and they're suited for certain things, but not that. I wouldn't want one in a foxhole with me, okay? And just being as blunt as I can. Anybody in the audience that listens to this, female, that's too bad. It's the way it is.
Our civilian attorney made a motion before the court to acquit Bill based, on the fact that the prosecution didn't meet the burden of evidence, and the judge, for about 40 minutes, even tried to help the prosecution by asking them pointed questions to try and elicit the information that he would have needed. And, they kept coming up empty, so he acquitted Bill of everything.
If it's up to me, I'd like to stay the remaining 4 years. I've served honorably. I was acquitted. I still have a lot to offer the Army, and they're in a recruiting and a retention slump. So you'd think they'd want to keep me around, but
they're just not. Their physical makeup and won't allow them. They would never make combatives. They can fly helicopters and drive tanks and what have you, but I just don't think that they're suited mentally to handle a battlefield situation.
This last year has been a long, hard year, and our future, at least we have a future now. There was one point in time during this case when I didn't think we had much of a future, because there was a very real possibility of Bill and the 2 pilots going to prison. But now that that hasn't happened, we can move on. It's given me a little more appreciation for life, because on June 6th of 1998, I could have been a widow.